Marcus Wellington adjusted his expensive watch and looked across the elegant restaurant dining room. The soft piano music filled the air while well-dressed customers enjoyed their meals at tables decorated with fresh flowers and crystal glasses. He had chosen this upscale place for dinner with his 12-year-old son Tommy, hoping for a quiet evening away from the busy world of business deals and board meetings. Tommy sat beside him in his wheelchair, his face bright with excitement, despite the challenges that cerebral palsy brought to his young life. His hands shook slightly as he tried to cut his pasta, but his smile never faded. Marcus watched his son with a mixture of love and worry that had become familiar over the years since Tommy's mother had passed away. "Dad, look at all the fancy lights," Tommy said, his words coming out slowly but clearly. His eyes sparkled as he pointed toward the chandelier hanging above their table. "They look like stars." Marcus smiled and reached over to help his son with his food. "They do look beautiful, don't they? Just like you said." He had learned to see the world through Tommy's eyes, finding wonder in simple things that most people overlooked. His son had taught him more about joy and appreciation than any business success ever could. The restaurant was busy that evening, filled with couples celebrating anniversaries, families enjoying special occasions, and business associates closing important deals. Waiters moved smoothly between tables, carrying silver trays and speaking in hushed, professional tones. Everything seemed perfect and organized, just the way Marcus liked his life to be. At a corner table near the window, a young black woman named Sarah moved gracefully as she served her customers. She had been working at the restaurant for almost 2 years, saving every penny she could while studying nursing at the local community college. Her uniform was always neat, her smile genuine, and her service exceptional. She treated every customer with respect and kindness, regardless of their background or how much money they spent. Sarah had noticed the father and son when they arrived. The man wore an expensive suit and carried himself with the confidence that came with wealth and power. But what caught her attention was the gentle way he spoke to his son, the patience in his voice, and the love in his eyes. She had seen many wealthy customers who seemed more interested in their phones than their families. But this father was different. As the evening continued, Sarah watched other diners glance toward the father and son's table. Some looked with curiosity, others with pity, and a few with the uncomfortable stares that Tommy had learned to ignore. Marcus noticed these looks too, and his jaw tightened slightly. He had dealt with such reactions for years, but it never got easier to see people judge his son before getting to know him. The restaurant's atmosphere began to change as the dinner hour reached its peak. The piano player started playing more lively songs, and some couples began to sway gently in their seats. Near the bar area, a small space had been cleared where a few brave diners occasionally danced to the romantic melodies. Tommy's eyes grew wide as he watched a young couple move onto the dance floor. The woman wore a flowing blue dress, and her partner guided her gracefully across the polished wood surface. Tommy clapped his hands together, though the movement was unsteady due to his condition. "They look so happy, Dad," Tommy whispered, his voice filled with wonder. "Dancing looks like flying." Marcus felt his heart squeeze tightly in his chest. He knew his son loved music and movement, even though his disability made dancing seem impossible. Tommy often listened to songs at home and would move his arms as much as he could, creating his own version of dancing from his wheelchair. "Would you like to try dancing sometime?" Marcus asked gently, though he wasn't sure how it would be possible. Tommy's face lit up with pure joy. "Really? You think I could dance like them?" Before Marcus could answer, he noticed that their waitress had approached their table. Sarah had been watching the conversation and heard Tommy's excited question. Something in the boy's hopeful expression touched her heart deeply. "Excuse me," Sarah said softly, her voice warm and kind. "I couldn't help but notice that your son is interested in the dancing." Marcus looked up at her, expecting perhaps a complaint about noise or disturbance. Instead, he saw genuine warmth in her brown eyes. Yes, he loves music and watching people dance. Sarah knelt down slightly so she was at Tommy's eye level. "Hi there, my name is Sarah. What's your name?" "I'm Tommy," the boy replied, his face glowing with happiness at having someone speak directly to him instead of talking over his head to his father. "Tommy, that's a wonderful name," Sarah said with a bright smile. "I love to dance too. I've been watching you enjoy the music, and I was wondering if you might like to dance with me." The request caught both Marcus and Tommy completely by surprise. Marcus began to protest, thinking about his son's limitations and the potential embarrassment. "I don't think that's necessary. He can't really—" "Dad," Tommy interrupted, his voice stronger than usual. "I want to try." Sarah looked up at Marcus with understanding in her eyes. "Sir, I know it might seem difficult, but I believe everyone deserves a chance to feel the joy of music and movement. If it's okay with you, I'd love to help Tommy experience dancing." Marcus studied the young woman's face. He saw no pity there, no fake sympathy, just genuine kindness and determination. Something about her confidence made him believe that she truly understood what she was offering. Around them, other diners had begun to notice the conversation. Some watched with curiosity, others with skepticism. Marcus was used to being the center of attention in boardrooms and business meetings, but this was different. This was about his son's happiness, not profit margins or corporate strategies. "Are you sure about this?" Marcus asked Sarah quietly. "Tommy has cerebral palsy. He can't walk or stand on his own." Sarah's smile never wavered. "That doesn't mean he can't dance. Dancing is about feeling the music and expressing joy. There are many ways to do that." Tommy reached out and took his father's hand with his trembling fingers. "Please, Dad." "I want to try dancing." The trust and hope in his son's voice made Marcus's decision easy. He nodded slowly. "If you're sure about this, then yes. Tommy would love to dance." The piano player had noticed the gathering attention and began playing a slower, gentler melody. Sarah moved to stand behind Tommy's wheelchair, placing her hands on the handles. "Is this okay, Tommy?" she asked. "I'm going to move your chair, and you can move your arms and feel the music however feels right to you." Tommy nodded eagerly, his eyes shining with excitement. "Yes, please." As Sarah began to guide the wheelchair in slow, graceful movements across the floor, something magical started to happen. Tommy lifted his arms as much as his condition allowed, swaying them to the rhythm of the music. His face showed pure joy and freedom, as if he had discovered something wonderful that had been waiting for him all along. Marcus watched from their table, his throat tight with emotion. He had built a business empire worth billions of dollars, had been featured on magazine covers, and had given speeches to thousands of people. But nothing had ever moved him as much as watching his son experience this moment of pure happiness. Other diners stopped their conversations and turned to watch. The initial curiosity and skepticism on their faces gradually changed to something else entirely. Some people began to smile, others wiped away tears, and a few started to clap softly in rhythm with the music. Sarah moved Tommy's wheelchair with grace and skill, creating patterns on the dance floor that made it look like they were truly dancing together. She encouraged Tommy to participate however he could, celebrating every arm movement and every smile as if they were the most beautiful dance moves she had ever seen. "You're doing wonderfully, Tommy," Sarah said as they moved together. "Feel how the music makes you want to move. There's no wrong way to dance." Tommy laughed with delight, a sound that filled the entire restaurant with warmth. His joy was so genuine and infectious that it seemed to touch everyone present. Even the most reserved diners found themselves smiling and tapping their feet to the music. As the song continued, Marcus realized that something important was happening. This wasn't just about dancing or entertainment. Sarah was showing everyone in the restaurant, including himself, that his son was capable of beauty, grace, and joy. She was proving that disability didn't mean inability, and that everyone deserved to experience the magic of music and movement. The piano player extended the song, sensing the special moment unfolding on his dance floor. He played with extra feeling, creating a soundtrack for something that was turning into much more than a simple dance between a waitress and a customer. Marcus found himself thinking about all the times he had worried about Tommy's future, all the moments he had felt sad about the experiences his son might never have. But watching this scene unfold, he began to realize that perhaps he had been thinking about limitations instead of possibilities. When the song finally ended, the entire restaurant erupted in applause. People stood up from their tables, clapping and cheering for Tommy and Sarah. Tommy's face was glowing with happiness and pride, his chest puffed out as he waved to the crowd like a performer taking a bow. Sarah knelt down beside Tommy's wheelchair again, her own face bright with joy. "That was beautiful dancing, Tommy. You're a natural." "That was the best thing ever," Tommy said, his words coming out in an excited rush. "Can we do it again sometime?" "Anytime you want to dance, you just let me know," Sarah replied, meaning every word. Marcus stood up slowly, his legs feeling unsteady for reasons that had nothing to do with physical weakness. He approached Sarah and his son, struggling to find words that could express what he was feeling. "Thank you," he said simply, his voice thick with emotion. "I don't know how to thank you enough for what you just did." Sarah looked up at him with the same warm smile she had shown Tommy. "There's nothing to thank me for. Tommy brought the joy. I just helped him share it with everyone." As they returned to their table, Marcus realized that the evening had become something he would never forget. But he also sensed that this was just the beginning of something larger, something that would change not only how he saw his son's future, but how he understood the meaning of true kindness and human connection. The days following Tommy's first dance stayed with Marcus in ways he hadn't expected. He found himself thinking about Sarah's kindness during important business meetings, remembering her genuine smile while reviewing quarterly reports. Something about that evening had shifted his perspective, making him question priorities he had never doubted before. Tommy, meanwhile, couldn't stop talking about his dancing experience. Every morning at breakfast, he would ask his father when they could go back to the restaurant to see Sarah again. His excitement was infectious, and Marcus found himself looking forward to another visit almost as much as his son did. A week later, Marcus made reservations at the same restaurant. He told himself it was because Tommy had enjoyed the food, but deep down he knew they were both hoping to see Sarah again. When they arrived, Tommy's eyes immediately scanned the dining room, searching for their special waitress. "Is Sarah working tonight, Dad?" Tommy asked, his voice full of hope. Marcus looked around and spotted her taking orders at a table across the room. "Yes, she's here," he said, watching as relief and joy spread across his son's face. When Sarah noticed them being seated in her section, her face lit up with genuine pleasure. She finished with her current customers and hurried over to their table. "Tommy, Mr. Wellington," she said warmly, "I'm so happy to see you both again. How have you been?" "I've been telling everyone about our dance," Tommy announced proudly. "My tutor, my doctor, even the mailman, they all want to learn how to dance like we did." Sarah laughed, a musical sound that made both father and son smile. "That's wonderful, Tommy. Dancing should be shared with everyone." As the evening progressed, Marcus found himself paying more attention to Sarah's interactions with all her customers. She treated an elderly couple celebrating their anniversary with the same warmth she showed a young family with noisy children. She remembered regular customers' favorite orders and always had a kind word for everyone she served. During a quiet moment, Sarah approached their table again. Tommy, I was wondering if you'd like to try something new tonight. The piano player knows a song called What a Wonderful World, and I thought it might be perfect for dancing. Tommy clapped his hands together excitedly. Yes, I love that song. Dad plays it at home sometimes. Marcus was surprised. He hadn't realized his son paid such close attention to the music he listened to while working in his home office. You really like that song? It makes me feel happy, Tommy explained. It talks about all the beautiful things in the world, like the trees and the sky and the people. Sarah knelt down beside Tommy's chair. That's exactly right. It's a song about seeing all the wonderful things around us, even when life is difficult sometimes. As she spoke, Marcus realized that Sarah understood something important about joy and gratitude that he had somehow missed despite all his success and education. She saw beauty in ordinary moments and found ways to share that beauty with others. When the piano player began the familiar melody, Sarah once again guided Tommy's wheelchair onto the small dance floor. This time, Tommy was more confident, moving his arms more freely and even trying to clap along with the music. His face showed pure contentment as they moved together. Marcus watched other diners stop their conversations to observe the dancing pair. A businesswoman at a nearby table wiped away a tear. An older gentleman began humming along with the music. A young couple held hands and swayed gently in their seats, inspired by the joy they were witnessing. But Marcus also noticed something else. Sarah wasn't just helping Tommy dance. She was genuinely enjoying herself. Her smile wasn't the professional expression she wore while serving food, but something deeper and more authentic. She was experiencing the same joy that Tommy felt, creating a connection between them that went beyond kindness to something like friendship. When the song ended, the applause was even more enthusiastic than the week before. Tommy beamed with pride, and Sarah curtsied playfully, making him giggle with delight. As they returned to the table, Marcus made a decision that surprised even himself. Sarah, would you be able to join us for a few minutes? I'd like to talk with you. Sarah glanced around the restaurant, checking that her other tables were taken care of. I have a small break coming up. Let me tell my manager. When she returned and sat down with them, Marcus wasn't entirely sure what he wanted to say. He had spent years making complex business decisions with confidence, but this conversation felt more important and more difficult than any corporate negotiation. I wanted to thank you again for what you've done for Tommy, he began. But I also wanted to understand something. Why did you offer to dance with him that first night? You didn't know us, and it wasn't part of your job. Sarah considered the question thoughtfully. I've been working here for 2 years, and I've seen a lot of families come and go. Most of the time, people are so busy with their own lives that they don't really see each other. But I watched you with Tommy, and I could see how much you love him. I could also see how much he wanted to be part of the joy around him. She paused, looking directly at Tommy, who was listening intently despite not understanding all the words. I have a younger brother with Down syndrome, Sarah continued. Growing up, I watched people treat him like he was invisible or like he couldn't understand what was happening around him. But Danny is one of the smartest, funniest people I know. He taught me that everyone has something special to offer if we just take the time to see it. Marcus felt a sudden understanding. Sarah's kindness wasn't random or impulsive. It came from personal experience and deep conviction. Is your brother why you're studying nursing? Partly, Sarah admitted. I want to work with children who have special needs. I want to help families understand that having a disability doesn't mean having less joy or love or possibility in life. Tommy had been following the conversation as best he could. Sarah, can I meet your brother Danny sometime? I think he would love to meet you, Tommy. He loves dancing too, and he's much better at it than I am. Marcus found himself imagining Tommy making friends with other children who shared his challenges and joys. For years, he had focused on protecting his son from a world that might not understand him. But Sarah was showing him a different approach, one that involved bringing Tommy into contact with people who would celebrate his abilities rather than focus on his limitations. "Sarah, can I ask you something personal?" Marcus said. "You're studying nursing, working here at the restaurant, and somehow still finding time to bring joy to strangers. How do you manage it all?" Sarah smiled, but Marcus could see tiredness around her eyes that he hadn't noticed before. "It's not easy," she admitted. "I work here 4 nights a week and study during the day. Sometimes I fall asleep over my textbooks, and sometimes I worry about whether I'm smart enough to become the nurse I want to be." "But you keep going," Marcus observed. "I have to. My family has invested so much in my education, and there are so many children like Tommy and my brother Danny who need advocates in the medical field. When I get discouraged, I remind myself that every person I can help makes the struggle worthwhile." Marcus was quiet for a moment, thinking about Sarah's dedication and comparing it to his own motivations in business. He had worked hard to build his wealth, but his primary drive had been success and security for himself and Tommy. Sarah was working just as hard, but her goal was to serve others. "What's the biggest challenge in your nursing program?" he asked. "The cost, honestly," Sarah said, then immediately looked embarrassed. "I'm sorry. I shouldn't complain about money to someone who's clearly successful." "Please don't apologize," Marcus said quickly. "I asked because I'm genuinely interested." Sarah took a deep breath. "I've been saving for 2 years to pay for my classes, and I still need to take out student loans for the final year of the program. Sometimes I worry that I'll graduate with so much debt that I won't be able to afford to work with the populations I want to serve, because those jobs often pay less than other nursing positions." Tommy had been listening quietly, but now he spoke up. "Dad, you have lots of money. Can't you help Sarah?" The simple question, asked with such innocence and logic, made both adults pause. Marcus felt his face flush slightly, realizing that his son had immediately seen a solution that hadn't occurred to him. "Tommy, it's very sweet of you to think that way," Sarah said gently. "But your father doesn't know me well enough to help with something like that." But Marcus was thinking about his son's suggestion more seriously than Sarah realized. He spent millions of dollars each year on business investments, charitable donations, and acquisitions. Helping someone like Sarah complete her education would be financially insignificant to him, but it could change her entire life. "Actually," he said slowly, "Tommy might be onto something. I've been looking for meaningful ways to use my resources to help others, and education is something I believe in strongly." Sarah looked alarmed. "Mr. Wellington, I wasn't telling you about my situation to ask for help. I would never—" "I know you weren't asking," Marcus interrupted. "That's exactly why I want to help. Sarah, what you've done for Tommy, what you're working toward with your nursing career, it matters more than most of what I spend money on." The conversation was interrupted by Tommy's excited voice. "Look, Dad! Sarah has tears, but they're happy tears like when I danced." Indeed, Sarah's eyes had filled with tears, but she was smiling through them. "I don't know what to say," she whispered. "You don't have to say anything right now," Marcus replied. "Just think about it. I'd like to help you finish your nursing program without the burden of debt." As Sarah returned to work to finish her shift, Marcus sat with Tommy, both of them quiet with their own thoughts. Finally, Tommy broke the silence. "Dad, helping Sarah feels like dancing, doesn't it? It makes everything lighter and happier." Marcus looked at his wise young son with amazement. "You're absolutely right, Tommy. Helping others does feel like dancing." That night, as Marcus tucked Tommy into bed, his son asked a question that stayed with him long into the evening. "Dad, do you think if more people danced together, they would want to help each other more?" Marcus kissed his son's forehead, marveling at the depth of understanding hidden within the innocent question. "I think you might be right about that too, Tommy." As Marcus sat in his study later that evening, he found himself making plans that had nothing to do with business profits or investment strategies. He was thinking about Sarah's nursing education, about Tommy's newfound confidence, and about the power of human connection to create positive change. He realized that watching his son dance had taught him something valuable about leadership and influence. True power wasn't about controlling outcomes or maximizing profits. It was about creating opportunities for others to discover their own strength and joy. 6 months after that first dance, Marcus stood in the lobby of Wellington Children's Medical Center, watching construction workers put the finishing touches on a beautiful new rehabilitation wing. The walls were painted in bright, cheerful colors, and large windows filled the spaces with natural light. In the center of the main therapy room was a special dance floor designed specifically for children with mobility challenges. Tommy sat in his wheelchair beside his father, practically vibrating with excitement. Today was the grand opening of the center's new pediatric therapy program, and Sarah would be starting her job as the head nurse for adaptive recreation therapy. "Dad, look!" Tommy pointed toward the entrance. "There's Sarah." Sarah walked through the doors wearing her new nursing uniform, her face glowing with happiness and pride. Behind her came a young man who Marcus recognized immediately as her brother Danny. He moved with the characteristic gait of someone with Down syndrome, but his smile was so bright it seemed to light up the entire lobby. "Tommy! Mr. Wellington!" Sarah called out as she approached them. "I want you to meet my brother Danny." Danny immediately walked up to Tommy's wheelchair and extended his hand for a formal handshake. "Nice to meet you, Tommy. Sarah tells me you're an excellent dancer." "Nice to meet you too, Danny," Tommy replied, shaking hands with serious dignity. "Sarah says you're an even better dancer than she is." "I am pretty good," Danny agreed with cheerful confidence. "Want to see?" Without waiting for an answer, Danny began moving to music that only he could hear, his body swaying rhythmically as he performed a series of simple but graceful dance moves. His joy was so infectious that soon Tommy was clapping along, and other people in the lobby stopped to watch and smile. Marcus felt the now familiar tightness in his chest that came whenever he witnessed these moments of pure human connection and joy. Over the past 6 months, such moments had become more frequent in his life, and he had learned to treasure them above any business achievement. The changes in Marcus's life had been gradual but profound. After paying for Sarah's nursing education, he had discovered that helping others provided a satisfaction that his business success had never matched. He had begun exploring ways to use his resources and influence to support programs for children with disabilities and their families. The medical center had been his largest project so far. Working with doctors, therapists, and families, he had designed a facility that focused not just on medical treatment, but on helping children discover their own capabilities and joy. The adaptive recreation program was the centerpiece, combining traditional therapy with arts, music, and movement activities. "Mr. Wellington," Sarah said, approaching him while Tommy and Danny continued their impromptu dance party. "I still can't believe this is real. 6 months ago, I was worried about student loans, and now I'm standing in my dream job at a facility that will help hundreds of children." "You earned this, Sarah," Marcus replied sincerely. "Your vision and passion made this possible. I just provided the funding." "It was more than funding," Sarah insisted. "You listened to what children and families actually needed instead of just building what you thought would be impressive. That's rare." Marcus had learned that Sarah was right. In his business world, he was used to making decisions based on profit projections and market analysis. But creating this medical center had required a different kind of intelligence, one that involved listening to parents, observing children, and understanding needs that couldn't be measured in spreadsheets. Dr. Patricia Williams, the center's head of pediatric therapy, joined their conversation. Sarah, are you ready to meet your first group of families? We have 12 children enrolled in the Adaptive Recreation Program, and their parents are very excited to get started. As they moved toward the therapy room, Marcus was struck by the diversity of the families gathered there. Children with various physical and developmental challenges sat with their parents, siblings, and grandparents. Some families looked nervous, others excited, and a few appeared overwhelmed by the newness of everything. Sarah stepped to the front of the group with the natural confidence that Marcus had first observed in the restaurant. "Hello, everyone. My name is Sarah, and I'm going to be working with your children to explore all the different ways we can use movement, music, and play to help them grow stronger and more confident." A small girl with leg braces raised her hand. "Can I really dance even though I need these to walk?" Sarah knelt down to the girl's eye level. "What's your name, sweetheart?" "I'm Emma, and I'm 7 years old." "Well, Emma, I have a friend named Tommy who dances beautifully from his wheelchair, and another friend named Danny who dances with Down syndrome. Dancing isn't about walking perfectly, it's about feeling the music and expressing joy. Would you like to try?" Emma nodded eagerly, and Sarah began playing soft music from a portable speaker. She showed Emma how to move her arms gracefully while seated, how to tap rhythms with her hands, and how to sway her upper body to the melody. Soon, Emma was giggling with delight as she discovered her own way of moving to the music. Other children began joining in, each finding their own unique style of movement and expression. Parents watched with tears in their eyes as their children, who often felt limited by their disabilities, discovered new possibilities for joy and creativity. Marcus found himself remembering his own fears about Tommy's future when his son was first diagnosed. He had worried about all the things Tommy might never be able to do, all the experiences that might be closed to him. But watching this room full of children celebrate their abilities rather than focus on their limitations, Marcus realized how much his perspective had changed. Tommy had become more confident and outgoing over the past months. He had started participating in online support groups for children with cerebral palsy, sharing his dancing experiences and encouraging others to try new activities. His joy had become a source of inspiration for other families dealing with similar challenges. As the therapy session continued, Marcus noticed a young father sitting alone in the corner, watching his daughter participate, but looking troubled and distant. The man's expression reminded Marcus of his own feelings during Tommy's early years, the mixture of love and worry that could become overwhelming. Marcus approached the father quietly. "Hi, I'm Marcus. That's my son Tommy over there in the wheelchair." The man looked up, surprised to be approached by a stranger. "I'm David. My daughter Lucy is the one with the leg braces who started the dancing." "She's doing beautifully," Marcus observed. "How are you feeling about all this?" David was quiet for a moment, then spoke with evident emotion. "Honestly, terrified. Lucy was born with spina bifida, and I keep thinking about everything she'll never be able to do. Sports, dancing, running around with friends. I want to be supportive, but sometimes I feel like I'm just pretending to be optimistic." Marcus sat down beside David, remembering his own struggles with similar feelings. "I used to think the same way about Tommy. I made lists in my head of all the experiences he might miss, all the limitations he would face. But watching him find joy in unexpected ways has taught me something important." "What's that?" David asked. "I was so focused on what Tommy couldn't do that I almost missed discovering what he could do. That little girl of yours is dancing right now, expressing herself, making friends, and having fun. Those aren't consolation prizes for missing out on other activities. They're valuable experiences in their own right." David watched Lucy laughing as she moved her arms in time with the music, her face bright with concentration and pleasure. "She does seem really happy right now." "The fear doesn't completely go away," Marcus admitted. but it gets easier to focus on possibilities instead of limitations. And you don't have to do it alone. There are resources, programs, and people who understand what you're going through. As the session ended, families began gathering their belongings and making plans to return the following week. Marcus watched Sarah say goodbye to each child individually, remembering something specific about their participation and encouraging them to practice at home. Tommy wheeled over to his father, his face flushed with excitement from the activity. "Dad, this was even better than dancing at the restaurant. Everyone here understands about being different, and nobody stares or feels sorry for us." "How does that feel, Tommy?" Marcus asked. "Like being normal," Tommy replied simply, "but also like being special in a good way." Dr. Williams approached Marcus as families began leaving. "Mr. Wellington, I wanted to thank you again for making this program possible. In just one session, I can see the positive impact it's going to have on these children and their families." "What's next for the program?" Marcus asked. "We're planning to add music therapy, art therapy, and adaptive sports programs. Sarah has proposed a monthly dance event where families can come together for social activities. She believes that building community connections is just as important as individual therapy." Marcus smiled, thinking about how much Sarah's vision aligned with the lessons he had learned from Tommy. "That sounds perfect. Let me know what resources you need to make it happen." As they prepared to leave the medical center, Marcus reflected on the journey that had brought them to this point. It had started with a simple act of kindness from a waitress who saw possibility instead of limitation. That moment had changed not only Tommy's life, but Marcus's understanding of what truly mattered. Tommy was chatting excitedly with Danny about their plans to practice dancing together, while Sarah finalized schedules with Dr. Williams for the upcoming weeks. The energy in the building was positive and hopeful, filled with the promise of children discovering their own strength and families finding support and community. That evening, as Marcus tucked Tommy into bed, his son asked a question that had become their nighttime tradition. "Dad, what was the best part of today?" Marcus considered the question, thinking about all the moments he had witnessed. "I think it was watching Emma discover that she could dance, and seeing her father realize that his daughter's happiness was more important than his fears about her limitations." "That's a good answer," Tommy said sleepily. "My best part was meeting Danny and all the other kids who understand about being different but still finding ways to be happy." As Marcus turned off the lights and prepared to leave Tommy's room, his son spoke one more time. "Dad, do you think Sarah knew that helping me dance that first time would lead to all this?" Marcus paused in the doorway, considering the question. "I don't think she planned it, Tommy. But I think she understood something important about how one act of kindness can create ripples that spread much farther than we expect." "Like dancing ripples," Tommy murmured, already half asleep. "Exactly like dancing ripples," Marcus agreed softly. As Marcus made his way to his own room, he thought about the future with a sense of excitement and possibility that had been absent from his life for many years. The medical center was just the beginning of what he hoped would be a lifetime commitment to creating opportunities for children like Tommy to discover their own unique gifts and abilities. He thought about Sarah, now embarking on the nursing career she had dreamed of, using her skills and compassion to help families navigate challenges while celebrating victories. He thought about all the children who would benefit from the programs they were creating, and all the families who would find hope and community through their shared experiences. Most of all, he thought about Tommy, whose courage to ask for a dance had started a chain of events that transformed not just his own life, but the lives of countless others. His son had taught him that true wealth wasn't measured in dollars or business achievements, but in the connections we make and the positive changes we inspire in the world around us. As Marcus finally settled into sleep, he could almost hear the gentle piano music from that first evening at the restaurant, the melody that had accompanied a moment of magic that changed everything. Tomorrow would bring new challenges and new opportunities. But it would also bring the continued joy of watching his son and other children discover that dancing, in all its many forms, was really about celebrating the beautiful fact of being alive and human in a world full of possibilities.